Hello again, you sick, twisted weather freaks, and welcome to another fun-filled, action-packed, and intellectually stimulating edition of This Week in Weather. I'm your host and meteorologist, DT, from weatherrisk.com, the commander of chaos, the colonel of confusion, the captain of catastrophe. It's a Sunday evening at 11 p.m. Let's talk This Week in Weather. Lots to talk about here. First, this week, the new website will be launched, finally, yay. Hopefully, you'll be all very pleased and very happy with that. Also with some new subscriptions you can get as well. We'll go into that later on this week. But our topics here this week on this issue of This Week in Weather, we'll give a brief review of the November 26th East Coast winter storm. This is sudden stratospheric warming event which is taking place. The ENSO, which is steadily increasing, and then something maybe day 9 or day 10 in a normally what's going to be a fairly innocuous December pattern for the first half of the month. There might be something there December 9th, day 9 or 10, I should say. And I'm not really that gung-ho about it yet, but we'll get to it in a second and explain. Let's talk about the nor'easter here for a second, the coastal storm for the day before Thanksgiving. Now, originally, this was supposed to be a much slower event, all right? This is Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. This is the European from 6 days out. And as you can see, the system is fairly off the coast here a little bit. And we have the second system, actually this one right here. And notice the big Arctic high coming down at 1044, a really monster one. And we have enough cold air so that this low goes off the coast and the temperatures stay in place. And it appears to be a decent snow event, especially inland, central and northern Virginia, and then up to the I-95 cities. That has happened before. It's not very common you get snow before, accumulating snow in the I-95 corridor before the end of November, but it does happen from time to time. So this has had some possibilities, but again, this was a slow-moving event Wednesday night. This implies that it would still be going on Thursday morning. And of course, as we know, the event came in much faster. Indeed, this is the GFS high resolution. And again, let me point out here that this is the high resolution GFS. See the parallel run here? And again, look at the dates of this. This is Wednesday night, the lows here. This is Thursday morning at 1 a.m., as you can see right here. And the low is still east of Virginia. You see that? And then this is Thursday at 7 a.m. according to the high-resolution GFS. And again, this is 6 days out. So this is from November 21st. It's still snowing in Boston and New York City, or maybe raining in Boston, but snowing in New York City and most of Connecticut and most of New England. And the snow is just winding down in Philly. Of course, it happened much faster than that. But the key here is that if the system had been delayed, we would have had a lot more cold air get into the system. And also, the other point here, and to show you what I mean about this, take a look at this enormous Arctic high, 1044, 1046. That does not show up on the actual maps. So the models were showing this to be a slower event, which allowed more cold air to get in it. Now, if we look at the upper air map for November 26, we see the southeast ridge right here. You can see it. Very pronounced. The North Atlantic oscillation here is positive. We have a regular sized polar vortex, a little bit of a 50-50 low here, a little bit. We have a little bit of ridging on the west coast, but there's the trough as you can see it. And we'll go into this in a little more detail, this trough here in the Mississippi Valley. And the problem here is that the southern stream, this feature right here, that's going negative here a little between east of the Mississippi River and west of Georgia, and that's a little tricky. It depends. If the negative tilt comes more like this way, it's a lot bigger, a lot more favorable for an East Coast snowstorm for everybody, I-95. Instead, we have it going negative over the Mississippi River just to the east of it. That's a little far to the west. It's not terrible, but it's not perfect. And that's part of what the problem was with the overall pattern here. And what that did is that pulled the low too far close to the coast. One thing that's interesting is that the Arctic oscillation here, this is this blue line, as you can see it. Let me call it up so you can see it here. See this blue line? This is exactly when the storm occurred on November 26th, 24th, and 25th. And you can see that the Arctic oscillation was negative, and then it started going positive just when it changes. And of course, that's a good sign here when the Arctic oscillation goes from positive to negative like that. Also the NAO for that matter. But you can clearly see the Arctic oscillation is still kind of negative, and it goes to weekly positive, which is not great, but it's not horrible for East Coast winter storms. Now this is the GFS, and you can clearly see what the GFS was doing here with the snow track here. And This is the Saturday forecast before. This is 0Z Sunday. This is the Sunday 12Z run. And this is 0Z Monday. All, the days before November 26th. So look what's happened. Here's the snow. Then it's here. Now it's going inland and even further inland. And so the GFS clearly saw the trend, even though it was very late to the system, of driving the snow in towards the mountains, which you would think makes sense given the fact that it's November and it's colder in the mountains and there's still elevation to be concerned with on the coast. So that's not a surprise, but this is a trend a lot of people missed. The fact that the GFS was driving everything inland. And that's why the snow wasn't going to be on the coast. Now this is the European here for Wednesday, 12Z, and you can see again, this is remember the original run had it over here on Thursday morning. So now it's a little slower. As you can see, it's coming in faster. Now let's take a look at that high. Remember that big, gigantic 1044 high? Let's take a look at it. 1026. That's not good enough. Not in November. Nuh-uh. We need this baby to be, 1040. Like it was supposed to be. 1026? No. That ain't going to cut the cheese. And as a result, the warm rate came in. That high had to be a lot stronger, especially given November. That might work for late December or January, February. That's not going to work for November. And that's one of the reasons why the warm air got in. And indeed, the short-range models, here's the Schreff. I showed this very nicely coming in. This is the 9Z Schreff, which came in, I guess this was on Wednesday. And you can see that, again, look at the low-level temperatures here at 32 degrees. Very clearly, you can see the line right here, way north of Philly, way north of New York City, way to the north and west of Boston. And here is, I guess this was the 850 temperatures again. Yeah. Now, these are surface temperatures, excuse me. And again, the 30-degree line is way to the north. This is 32 here. It's just, everything was just way too warm. This was even 1 a.m. on Thursday morning. And then finally, look at the logos actually over Cape Cod and Boston. And the rain snow line is here, but it's actually up by Boston. It's just not a great setup for a good East Coast snowstorm. Now, if this was end of December, different matter. Let's talk about the stratospheric warming. Now, this is going to be the new buzzword, as I mentioned in the winter update. You can see the first stratospheric warming event, this bubble of enormous warm air, which developed here. And then by October 27th, when the Typhoon Noru was becoming that huge storm in the Bering Sea, it was right here. And then it moved and went all the way over to this direction here. So spilled over into North America. Now, not all stratospheric warming events are going to do that. So just because you're going to get one doesn't mean that North America or the U.S. is about to turn cold. It has to be in the right location. Okay, location, location, location. This is the new one starting on November 12th, as you can see right here. And then here's November 20th. And look at this enormous ball developing right here, this huge blob of extremely warm atmosphere. The top levels way up there by 10 millibars above the jet stream. And hopefully, for winter weather lovers, it does this. It comes over again. I believe it will, but it's going to take some time before it does that. So we're talking mid-December at the earliest. At the earliest. Indeed, if we look at the ENSO here, we can continue to see that all the regions here are warming again right here. Significant steady warming. Look at 3 and 4, steady warming right here. All these are, look at now region 3 is above 1. Now what's interesting here is that these regions, 1 and 2, they're fluctuating. They're going up and down and up and down and up and down. So all the warming is developing out to the western areas. Okay, and that's one of these Mordecai El Nino. We can see that here in a second here. This is, there you go. Again, this is over here. This is down here. I'll call it a marker. This is 1 and 2 over here in this area. And notice it's not very warm here. All the warmth is out here. This is region 3 and region 3.4 and region 4. That's all in this area in here. And that's where it's warming. We still have a positive PDO, and there has been some cooling in the Gulf of Alaska. I know some meteorologists have made a big deal about that, but in fact, if you look at you'll see that the waters are already significantly starting to warm again in the Gulf of Alaska, just like we had last year. Now, if we look at a long-term trends here over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we don't see a lot of favorable stuff to get excited about for the overall pattern. The P&A shoots up, and then it drops back down again. The NEO is positive, then it goes to neutral by the middle of the month. The WPO is slightly negative, goes slightly positive, and the EPO goes positive. So none of these are very great looking signs for big winter weather in the eastern half of the country. And indeed, if you look, and this is not a surprise, if you, like I mentioned in other forums here as well, if we look at the positive PDOs during the month of December, January, February, March, this is now December. Just looking at the map, this is what we get here for December. Oops, call out my marker. Here's December. Okay, and the look of the block is the block's in Scandinavia and eastern Greenland and Iceland. This is an eastern-based NEO or maybe even a Scandinavian block. That's not very good for East Coast winter storms. It's not terrible, but it's not very good. And what it does do is it also allows for a very strong Pacific jet to come roaring in here, as you can see right here, and bring in California and the Pacific Northwest significant rains. And we are seeing that. We're going to see that for the next 2 weeks. Now, we look down the road here. This is December 6th. Again, a very mild pattern for most of the country. Strong Pacific jet blasting everywhere. No cold air anywhere in the country. Look at all the cold air. I mean, it's way up here, folks. This, you can see it way up in this way. Very impressive. And all the cold air stays up. Lots of warm temperatures here. But again, there are some changes in the offering. Now, here's the European, the Sunday European. Now, this is day 7. And what it's doing is developing this weird tropical feature. See this right here? And that begins to alter the pattern a little bit. Again, notice all the cold air is still way up in Canada. Okay? Now, this is day 8. Look at this tropical feature here again. What is this thing? I'm not even sure if this is real. Okay? But there it is. So it's definitely some sort of tropical feature, I think, or an ocean low. I'm not sure. Maybe a subtropical system. And all the cold air is still up there. We're beginning to get a little bit of ridging here on the west coast. Maybe some cold air trying to get back into the U.S. And then finally, that coastal storm is gone. But what it does is we started getting a ridging here, as you can see, and that brings see this hot, cold high coming down. And we begin to see a little bit of cold air trying to push down here into the U.S. a little bit. And that sets up the stage for a potential event down the road, which is what's showing up in the European here at day 10. And this is what it looks like. You can see the high, and there's the low. If you go to the next map so you can see it, where the temperatures are, you can see the cold air is back in the country, according to the European, right through here, as you can see it. But again, this is an enlargement. Let me call up the next map here. We can see it more enlarged here. What the model is trying to do here, we have bit of a 50-50 low here. We have some nice ridging here. There's a big short wave in the southern stream right in this area. So who knows, maybe something's going to be developing. It's not an ideal setup at all. And you can see what it looks like. Now this is 10 days out, and this is a very unusual pattern. And you can see right there. And it's got, here's the rain snow line. Now look at the big high here, folks. Again, 1043. That high has got to be there, okay? It has to be there. If this is 1030 or 1025, this is a rain event. So that high has to be there for everybody in the Northeast. It is not an ideal setup. Okay? Good. And this is the GFS. Interestingly enough, the high-resolution GFS, the 18Z, is showing the same sort of setup. Again, look at the cold Arctic high here and here. And there's the low, and we can call it up. It's a very weak low with another low developing here, inverted trough. This has potential if the cold air is there. Okay? And we can see it a few hours later on the morning of December 10th. The high is still in place, and finally there's one low off the coast. So maybe there might be something down the road, maybe. And the GFS ensembles do support it. We can clearly see some sort of a low right here, and then something south the wave right there. Again, look at the high is in a good position. So if the high is strong enough, maybe, it might be something December 10th. I'm not so. The European ensembles definitely hint at it as well. And if we look further down the road, this is the day 10 European ensemble. It's not showing a lot of stuff. We're getting a little bit of ridging here on the west coast. It's still not a very cold pattern here. Here's our EPO. Maybe that's going to go negative. It could be the start of the pattern shift after this event. I'm not holding my breath yet, but it's something to look forward to. And if we look at day 9 and day 10, we can see some interesting features here. All the models are showing this. See right here? All the models are showing this feature in here, developing and connecting up. So maybe the ridge is trying to connect. That would make the EPO go negative if that were to happen. And we're getting some sort of ridging tree. The European much shallower, but the other models are showing it. So again, it doesn't look like anything humongous after the December 9th or 10th possible event, but maybe the pattern might begin to shift a little towards the colder side once again. Maybe. Finally, this is the AER, Atmospheric Environmental Research. This is from Dr. Judo Cohen, the guy who discovered this connection between Siberia and snowfall and the U.S. and the North America weather patterns. And his final forecast has a pretty cold winter for the central and eastern half of the country. This is meteorologist DT from weatherist.com. I'll talk to you soon.